This week's episode of Gundam Reconguista NG was classic. Pure Tomino Kill 'em all classic. It really felt like I went back in time watching this week's episode. It literally was like watching the original Mobile Suit Gundam or Zeta Gundam. It had that whole feel. And it was a really simple episode. It was basically just Dellinson versus Bellry, and we got to see the brand new mobile suit that Dellinson was using this week, which is known as the Elf Bull. There was a lot of build-up to this mobile suit, and it's really not too different from the Elf Bullock that we saw in the previous episode. It does go through a transformation sequence. I do like the design of the Elf Bull just a little bit more, and the battle that it actually has with the G-Self this week is undoubtedly the highlight of this week's episode, because we actually get to see some brand new abilities that the G-Self is going to have. It actually has this big reflector backpack that it wears, and when it actually activates, it has all of these huge panels which go outside of its body, and it uses those to reflect beams and beam weaponry, and it just looks really awesome, and I cannot wait to see what the model version of this is going to look like, how they're actually going to make it seem as if the panels are literally floating in air. They're probably going to use like clear plastic for those. But I also like the fact that when it actually uses its reflector abilities, it actually changes the color of the G-Self and makes it have this like dark purplish bluish color. So, the real thing about this episode is that it was just a huge build-up to this battle, where basically the Pirate Corps from the Amerian Army are getting ready to test out this reflector weapon, and Dellinson is going to try and go after the pirates so that he can save Bellry. Of course, this is going to be Gundam, so there's going to be an ironic twist where they have to fight each other, and it isn't until the very end of their battle that they realize who they're actually fighting against. And in classic Gundam style, it results in the death of a major character of the series. And honestly, I'm not that shocked by it, but that's only because this is something that happens in almost every single Gundam anime ever. Except for Gundam Build Fighters. It's not that type of show. The actual setting of the battle is really cool because it's just above the atmosphere of the Earth, which is actually really dangerous, because if they mess up in flight or they get hit and they fall too far, they're going to end up just plowing like a freaking meteorite into the Earth, and they're not going to be able to survive. And obviously we do have a scene like that at the very end of the episode, which is again very classic Gundam. But the battle between the G-Self and the Elf Bull is really awesome. It's well animated, it's very flashy. I particularly love the effects that the reflector makes whenever it blocks a move. It has like these hexagonal panels which explode all over itself. There's a lot of sparks flying, and I love the sound of the beam rifles in this show. I especially love when they have that boo sound to them. I know that sounds really cheesy and kind of stupid, but it just sort of like adds to the old school feeling of this anime, and it just allows me to enjoy that as well. The other subplot of this week's episode is that Bellry is still trying to escape with both Naruto and with Raraya, and it doesn't really seem like that's going to work out. And at the very end of this battle, when both Dellinson and Bellry finally realize who they are, Dellinson gets killed at point-blank range with a beam rifle shot, and it's just classic style Gundam. Bellry freaks out, and then he realizes that Klimnik is falling into the atmosphere of Earth. He goes to save him. And this scene is actually really interesting because it's already sort of showing how Bellry is going to leave the Capital Army and actually start working with the Amerian Army and the Pirate Corps. And even at the end of the episode, Klimnik obviously has no more problems with Bellry, considering that he saved him, and he seems to be okay with him at this point. Hell, even in the last episode, he was going to allow him to be lieutenant, so obviously I can't wait to see more of the dynamic between their team. And at the end of the episode, in classic Gundam fashion, Bellry is still trying to figure out if it really was Dellinson that he killed, and he's beating himself up for it, and the scene ends very ominously, just like any other classic Gundams. So what's the rundown? On this week's episode of Gundam Reconguista NG, it was classic, my friends. If you like old school Gundam anime, you need to check out this week's episode. It had really great action at the end of the episode. There was some brand new mobile suits, which I really enjoyed. I love the design of the Capital Army's mobile suits. They're so different than the other things that we've actually seen in the other Gundam anime series. The battle between Dellinson and Bellry was intense, really well animated, and I'm actually kind of surprised that Dellinson was killed so early in the series, and yet at the same time, I'm not that surprised because this is a Gundam anime that is directed by Tomino, the creator, and he is known for killing every character. Other things that I really liked about this episode is how they're slowly introducing us to the different members of the Pirate Corps' crew. I especially love the actual pilot of the ship. She is hilarious. I believe her actual name is just Steer, but she's very energetic. She's constantly stretching in between piloting the ship, and she seems to have an English accent, which I just find funny for some reason. Otherwise, this was a pretty nice episode. I like the fact that we're already going into space. Space has always been my favorite setting in the Gundam anime. I just think it feels really nice there. It just really adds a lot more to that whole science fiction feel. Although I imagine we're probably going to go back down to Earth a little bit later, and I'm really interested to see how these whole space colonies are going to pop up later, if they even exist within this brand new century, which is way after Universal Century. Otherwise, this was just a really classic episode that you should check out if you like mobile suit action and you're a fan of the original series. This episode right here definitely made it clear that if you've been following the old Gundam anime, this is the series for you. So check out this week's episode. It was very intense, and we're actually going to see a little more development from Bellry, I think, after this episode, because there was a scene where he actually realized like the danger of the mobile suits that the Capital Army are creating, and he even mentions that his mother is ignorant to all the things that are actually going on within the Capital Army, just driving the fact home that they're going to be the villains of this show. I think that's something we can expect, especially because all the people of the Pirate Corps and the American Army, they just seem so awesome and so great, and they seem to have some greater goal in mind, and I can't wait to see what that is. This is a slow-moving anime series. It's not going to be for everyone. I still think I can only recommend it to old-school Gundam fans, but if you consider yourself a fan of mecha and science fiction, give it a watch. And if you just want to see something that looks a little different than the other anime we got right now, something that looks a little more old school, check out Gundam Reconguista NG. I'm giving this week's episode a 4 out of 5. It was not a perfect episode, but I think it was really good, and it was just pure classic Gundam. Check it out. Thank you guys for watching my review. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and like the video. Before you guys leave, please tell me what you thought about this week's episode of Gundam Reconguista NG. Were you shocked that we got another major character death so early in the series? Or did you just see it coming? What did you think of the new mobile suits that were introduced this week? And what do you want to see from the rest of this brand new Gundam anime series? Before you guys leave, please go ahead and subscribe to our channel if you have not already. You can do that by clicking on the channel icon right up here. I would recommend doing that so that way you can see all of our brand new anime and manga reviews as they are released. You guys can also follow us on Facebook and on Twitter.